The name Judas Iscariot is synonymous with betrayal, treachery, and deceit. For centuries, people have debated the motives behind his actions and the extent of his guilt. Some see him as a tragic figure, a victim of circumstances who was forced to play a role he did not want to. Others view him as a villain, a man who betrayed his friend and leader for a handful of silver coins. But who was Judas Iscariot really, and what led him to betray Jesus? To understand the life of Judas, we need to look beyond his infamous act of betrayal. According to the Bible, Judas was one of the 12 apostles chosen by Jesus to spread his message to the world. He was entrusted with the responsibility of managing the finances of the group, which suggests that he was trusted and respected by his peers. However, somewhere along the way, something went wrong. There are several theories about why Judas decided to betray Jesus. Some believe that he was disillusioned with Jesus' teachings and became convinced that he was not the Messiah. Others suggest that he was motivated by greed and saw an opportunity to make some quick money. Still, others believe that he was coerced into betraying Jesus by the Jewish authorities, who wanted to get rid of him. Whatever the reason behind his actions, it is clear that Judas paid a heavy price for his betrayal. According to the Bible, he hanged himself after realizing the magnitude of his sin. He is often depicted in art and literature as a tragic figure, consumed by guilt and remorse. But is it fair to judge Judas solely based on his betrayal of Jesus? What do we know about his life before he met Jesus? What kind of person was he, and what were his aspirations and dreams? These are questions that we may never be able to answer definitively, but they are worth exploring nonetheless. Judas is believed to have come from the town of Iscariot in Judea, which is why he is sometimes referred to as Judas Iscariot. He may have been a zealot, someone who was passionate about Jewish independence and freedom from Roman rule. He may have joined Jesus' movement with the hope of becoming a political leader who could overthrow the Romans and establish a Jewish kingdom. If this is true, then Judas' betrayal of Jesus may have been a desperate attempt to force his hand. Perhaps he saw Jesus as too passive or too spiritual and wanted him to take more decisive action. When he realized that Jesus was not going to become the political leader he had hoped for, he may have felt that he had no choice but to betray him. Of course, this is all speculation, and we may never know the true motives behind Judas' actions. But by trying to understand the context in which he lived and the challenges he faced, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the complexities of human behavior. Judas may have made a terrible mistake, but he was also a product of his time and place. The story of Judas and his betrayal of Jesus has been a subject of fascination for artists, writers, and filmmakers for centuries. From medieval paintings to modern-day movies, the story has been retold and reinterpreted countless times, each version offering a unique perspective on the events that led to Judas' infamous act of betrayal. In this essay, we will examine how Judas' betrayal is portrayed in modern-day art, literature, and media, and how these depictions reflect the changing attitudes towards this controversial figure. One of the most famous modern portrayals of Judas' betrayal is the rock opera Jesus Christ Superstar, which was first performed in 1970. In this musical, Judas is portrayed as a conflicted and tormented figure, torn between his loyalty to Jesus and his fear of the consequences of his actions. He is portrayed as a tragic hero, someone who was trying to do the right thing but ended up making a terrible mistake. The song Judas' Death is particularly powerful, with Judas singing about his regret and remorse as he hangs himself. My mind is in darkness now. My God, I am sick. I've been used. And you knew all the time. God, I'll never know why you chose me for your crime. The portrayal of Judas in Jesus Christ Superstar is a departure from the traditional view of him as a villainous traitor. Instead, he is presented as a complex and sympathetic character, whose actions are driven by fear, doubt, and confusion. Another modern portrayal of Judas' betrayal can be found in Dan Brown's best-selling novel The Da Vinci Code. In this book, Judas is depicted as a loyal follower of Jesus, who was entrusted with a secret that would threaten the power of the church if it were ever revealed. According to the book, Judas did not betray Jesus willingly but was instead forced to do so by the church, which wanted to suppress the truth about Jesus' true nature. This portrayal of Judas is controversial, to say the least, and has been criticized by many for its historical inaccuracies and sensationalism. However, it does reflect a growing skepticism towards traditional religious narratives and a willingness to question the motives of those in power. The 2004 movie The Passion of the Christ also offers a modern portrayal of Judas' betrayal, albeit one that is more in line with the traditional view of him as a traitor. In this movie, Judas is portrayed as a conniving and greedy figure, who sells out Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. His betrayal is seen as an act of cowardice and treachery, and his subsequent suicide is portrayed as a fitting end to his despicable actions. The portrayal of Judas in the Passion of the Christ is controversial, with some critics arguing that it perpetuates negative stereotypes of Jews and demonizes a historical figure without fully understanding the context in which he lived. However, it is also a reflection of the enduring power of the traditional narrative of Judas as a villainous traitor. In recent years, there have been attempts to rehabilitate Judas' image and present him in a more sympathetic light. One example of this is the novel Judas by Taylor Caldwell and Jess Stern, which was published in 1977. In this book, Judas is presented as a devoted disciple of Jesus, who was forced to betray him in order to fulfill a divine plan. According to the authors, Judas' betrayal was not a sin but a necessary sacrifice that allowed Jesus to fulfill his mission on earth. This portrayal of Judas as a victim of circumstance has been embraced by some religious scholars, who argue that he was not a villain but a necessary part of God's plan. Despite the attempts to rehabilitate Judas' image, the traditional view of him as a traitor remains deeply ingrained in popular culture. This is evident in the many movies, TV shows, and books that continue to depict Judas as a villainous figure, whose betrayal of Jesus was an act of greed and treachery. One possible reason for this enduring portrayal of Judas is the way in which his story taps into deep-seated human fears and anxieties. Judas' betrayal of Jesus represents the ultimate act of disloyalty and betrayal, something that strikes at the heart of our notions of trust and loyalty. In a world where betrayal is all too common, the story of Judas offers a cautionary tale about the dangers of greed, ambition, and self-interest. Another reason for the continued portrayal of Judas as a villain is the way in which his story reflects larger cultural narratives about good and evil. In many traditional religious narratives, good and evil are portrayed as absolute and opposing forces, with no room for shades of gray or complexity. Judas, as the ultimate embodiment of evil, becomes a convenient scapegoat for our fears and anxieties about the darker aspects of human nature. In conclusion, the portrayal of Judas' betrayal in modern-day art, literature, and media reflects the changing attitudes towards this controversial figure. While there have been attempts to rehabilitate Judas' image and present him in a more sympathetic light, the traditional view of him as a traitor remains deeply ingrained in popular culture. Whether seen as a tragic hero or a villainous traitor, Judas' story continues to fascinate and challenge us, forcing us to confront our deepest fears and anxieties about loyalty, betrayal, and the nature of good and evil. Dear subscribers, I just wanted to take a moment to express my deep gratitude for all of your support and encouragement as I've continued to create videos for this channel. I am humbled by the response so far, and I am constantly amazed by the passion and enthusiasm that you bring to the community we have built together. Your comments and feedback have been invaluable in shaping my content and helping me to grow as a creator. It is truly an honor to have you as part of this community, and I feel privileged to have the opportunity to share my knowledge and insights with all of you. I look forward to continuing to create new content that informs, inspires, and challenges you. And as always, please feel free to leave your comments and feedback below. Your input is truly appreciated, and I am always eager to hear from you. Thank you again for your support and dedication to this channel. It means the world to me, and I am grateful for each and every one of you. Sincerely. Faithfully Empowered.